more and more, this is a good option for large companies with strong infrastructure and in-house expertise. Companies that have, highly complex requirements, companies with sophisticated customizations, or companies that are heavily invested in their current product. Cloud-hosted solutions, good option for companies that still have a need to manage the software but don't want to manage the infrastructure associated with it. Your software and data resides at a remote data center, accessed via Citrix or some similar solution. You also may get an option for infrastructure as a service or software as a service type of licensing. This, however, is not a true cloud, and this approach could prove to be problematic if you don't do the proper research and planning. So issues such as performance, lockups, printing remotely, and inflexibility with managing your software is common. On the other hand, cloud computing, it's a new breed of applications designed for the Internet age. What is true cloud? So true cloud is a multi-tenant system, basically a single instance of software designed it's built to run on a server farm serving multiple client organizations or tenants. 100% web-based, so you could access it via Internet Explorer, Chrome, Firefox, Safari. And you have access to the system at any time from anywhere. And it's subscription-based, so no need to buy software. You lease your software, but you own your data. So some key benefits of cloud computing: ease of access and visibility. Again, you can access your data from anywhere at any time, which means real-time visibility to your financial data. You can conduct your business and approvals remotely, etc. So it's easier to forecast also the total cost of ownership, no future hardware upgrade costs to consider, no maintenance plans cost, no upgrade labor cost. It's easier to manage overall. So you don't have to worry about the underlying hardware, maybe networking infrastructure and configurations, to accommodate the product. Backups and disaster recovery are taken care of. There's less dependence on internal resources to support you. And then the biggest thing is you don't have to worry about software incompatibilities, upgrade issues, and downtime. So with Intacct, you actually get quarterly releases of the software enhancements. And for the more significant enhancements, you get to opt in, in a period. So this way you can ease into the new features at your own convenience. You also get rapid deployments with the cloud, which means faster return on investment. And you can scale up quickly. So you could add new users, deploy new modules, and provision new entities. So Intacct company has been around for over 10 years, and it has received virtually every industry award. Intacct has the AICPA's exclusive endorsement as their preferred provider for financial applications in the mid-market. And as a matter of fact, the International Federation of Accountancy selected Intacct for their own internal operations. So as you can see here, many of the fastest growing companies are using Intacct. So Intacct has over 6,000 companies representing over 35 business entities. So Intacct uses a Savvis data center. Savvis is a world-class hosting center. They have data centers across the U.S., West Coast, East Coast, Europe, and Asia. So other customers that use Savvis include Salesforce.com, Charles Schwab Bank, Reuters, and Adobe. The centers go through their SAS 70 Type 2 audits, so you can feel really secure about your data safety and security. And the uptime, which is really huge, the uptime for Intacct is 99.989%. That's phenomenal. And they publish that on their website, so at any time you could go and look at that data. So we talked about a little bit the back-end security. Now on the front end of the application, you can authenticate via single sign-on, SSO standard, which basically you're authenticated by a third-party verification system, which then passes your credentials to participating sites. You can also enable a two-step verification, similar to what bank institutes use. So, for example, if you try to log on from a different computer or device, you'll get prompted for a security passcode. Also, if that same device is attempting to access the application from a different IP zone, like maybe you went to the West Coast, you'll get prompted with additional security questions as well. Once you are in the application, so Intacct has pretty granular permissioning. You set up your users, you assign them a role, and then for those roles you specify what applications they have access to. But once you are in the application, you could specify even in more detail within the activities in that application or module what level permission you will give for each activity. So let's talk about what you get, the core modules for basic subscription. Of course, you'll get the general ledger, accounts payable, but you also get the purchasing and requisitions. You get cash management, time and expense, employee time and expense, accounts receivable, payment services for credit card processing, order entry, and you get customization services and web services. Some of the standard features in Intacct, again, once you provision, you get dashboards, the drill downs from screens and reports, extremely flexible report writer, scheduling and emailing of reports, custom reporting periods. So if you're maybe on a fiscal year and you're not-for-profit and you have grants, you could have your grants on a different reporting period just for reporting purposes. So that's pretty big. The procure-to-pay workflow, payment approvals, ACH, payments to vendors or e-banking, excuse me, maker printing on blank check stock or prepaid checks, mobile approval, journal approvals, file attachments and cloud storage, employee expense entry, and credit card charges and payoff under cash management. So if you have a corporate card, the employees will enter their expenses for their own American Express. You want to pay American Express on one check, so you're able to sort of pool those separate American Express transactions and pay it out of one bill. And then again, you get the credit card payment services. So it works with PayPal and Authorize.net. When we get in demo, we're going to touch on dimensions. So I think it's important to spend just a moment to talk about Intacct dimensions, the concept. So Intacct dimensions, they help organize and categorize your data into the general ledger. This way you get options to track transactions with a single or maybe multiple dimensions. It will give you flexibility to run reports by dimension or combination of dimensions. And so just some examples of dimensions. Of course, you get the customers, vendors, employees. You also get departments, location, classes, projects. Items is not on here, but items. And if you're a not-for-profit, you definitely get 2 free additional dimensions. Otherwise, if these are not sufficient, you could certainly purchase more dimensions if you need them. And then as far as structuring your dimensions, there's a flat structure, or you could create a hierarchical structure. So an example of hierarchical structure would be a location. So perhaps you have Northeast, Mid-Atlantic, Southeast, but you want to roll those up to a parent called East Coast. You have that flexibility. So let's say there's a need to track by location, department, and project. In a traditional system, you're going to have to configure that and account for that in your chart of accounts. So in this example, you'll have to do essentially 75 different account combinations. But with the idea of dimensions in Intacct, you really have a single chart of account, and then you have the location, department, and project dimension to use during entry. So you're really streamlining your chart of accounts. What does that mean? So having the flexibility of dimensions and also account groups with your chart of accounts, you really get a lot of flexibility, especially with their report writer, in how you design your reports. So these are very simple examples here in this slide, but really it's just meant to show how you could create reports. So you'll have account groups by row, and then in the column you could filter by a dimension. In this other box here, you could have both the account group and the dimension be by column. And then another example would be if you wanted to have your dimensions as columns, but then the account groups in the rows, you have the flexibility to do that. So this is pretty big, because what we're saying is you could use your financial reports to actually report on customers, vendors, and other dimensions. So that's really important. Tom, I'm hearing some feedback a little bit. Thanks.
Sorry, I got it first.
Okay, thank you. All right. Yeah, I'm still getting the feedback, Tom. So a feature that many of our clients like in Intacct is the allocation feature. You predefine and store various allocations in the system that can then be later used during data entry throughout the various modules. So in this example here, we have an allocation by department square footage. It's a percentage allocation. So in the detail here, you specify the percentages that are going to go to a specific department and maybe a location. And you can use any of the other dimensions as well in your allocation. So during data entry, as long as you associate your allocation with a existing predefined allocation ID, then the system will automatically split those transactions for you. So you see here we have a 10,000, and it did the allocation for me automatically, and it included the spread to the various dimensions. So in this case, location and department. Another strong feature that is, as far as managing, I guess a strong feature of Intacct is really managing inner entities and the consolidated reporting aspect of it. So once you quickly provision an entity, you can then share that same master accounts. You can share the same vendors and customers if you like, but you could also restrict them by entity. So you're updating one master list, but then you have the option to restrict those by entity if you choose. And also you could restrict by you could restrict the entities by users. So if you have the inner entity relationships, you're able to define those in this window here, and then the system will automatically create the inner entity transactions for you. To consolidate your reports, then you simply run these reports from the company top level. And because an entity is a dimension, you get all the flexibility in creating your own custom reports using those entities. Intacct can easily manage complex revenue recognition requirements. So you get the flexibility to define revenue recognition templates and rules for different products and services. You can easily respond to subsequent changes and make modifications. The system can automatically handle revenue recognition, pricing, billing, and renewals for coterminous contracts, which essentially means multiple contracts that have the same duration. You're also able to decouple billing rules from revenue recognition rules, so allowing your company to bill according to specific customers and product requirements. And then finally, you can track deferred and renewal revenue through comprehensive reports and dashboards that show revenue now and forecast future revenue. So I'm going to get into the product now. Just give me a second. All right, so what we're looking at here is we have two tabs here. I'm logged in as two separate users, but to the same company. So first user here, Carla Grace, she's the finance director. She's a full business user. That means she really has access to the entire application, restricted only by her permissions. And on the other tab, you have Paul Smith, who's a purchasing clerk. As you see, his menu is more streamlined. He really just has the ability to submit purchasing requests, vendor bill requests, and look at some reportings. So back to Carla Grace. This is Carla Grace landing dashboard. So when she first logs onto the system, this is what she sees. And this is, a customized dashboard that has components that are tailored to what she likes to see on a daily basis. And with Intacct, the nice thing is you could create these dashboards without having any technical background. It's just pretty straightforward. So if you have the permissions, you could click Edit here. Not only then you could drag and rearrange the components, but you could add new components. So you'll see in a second, the adding components is really intuitive. You have different component types. So the general would be something like, the calendar or the message board. Records, a good example would be if you wanted to show things that relate to, if you're an approval and you want to see payment requests, you could display that. So when you log in, if there's an approval waiting for you, you'll just see that in that component. And then, of course, you get the reports. So with the reports, you get to pick any of the predefined financial statement reports, but also any custom reports that you have developed and put them out on the dashboard. You could create a snapshot for a certain period if you want. So if you're sharing it with board members or outsiders and you want it to be a snapshot of a particular period, you can certainly do that. Or you could make it live, so this way every time you log in to the dashboard, it's going to refresh that data, or you could simply hit the refresh button as well. And in Intacct, you have the option to develop graphical reports. And then once those reports are available, you could push them out to your dashboard as well, just like the other reports. And again, it's pretty straightforward. So under reports and all of these other ones, you could adjust the height, the number of rows you want to display, and how many columns in your dashboard you want to have. And then finally, you have the smart links. What that really means is you could fetch a website and display it on in your dashboard component, or you could simply create a clickable link, a URL essentially. You could have a list of them. This way, whatever you need for that day is right there available to you in your dashboard. So we talked about, customizing a dashboard, but you could also have the dashboard be interactive. So I could simply click on any of these reports if I want to generate the full report. And here we talked about dimensions. So depending on the report design and which dimensions you're prompting your users for, they'll be displayed on your report prompt here. So then these are an example of dimensions, department, location, and program. From here, you could filter your report on these specific dimensions. So this is a preview of my report. And anything in blue is something that's either expandable or you're able to drill down into. So for example, if I want to take this line item here, I'll choose the 10,000. The system is going to take me through the drill process. Here I see that this came from a batch summary relating to AP. I could continue drilling down. I think with GoToMeeting and the browser, it's slowing it down a little bit. Usually it's much quicker.
Yeah, we can speed it up, Eris.
Okay, good. So right now I'm in my batch summary. Again, I could scroll down, find that particular data center line item, and continue to drill down all the way to the actual bill, which is, it should refresh on your end. I'll give it a second or two. All right, so you should see it hopefully by now.
Yep, we do see it.
Okay, great. All right, so this is a pretty good example, and this is available throughout Intacct. So any of your reports, or sometimes you're in your inquiry screens, what have you, you're able to drill down all the way to the source transaction. So today we really don't have time to actually go through a full example of a requisition workflow, but I do want to, I think it's important to just point out that flexibility because I think it's huge. So under purchasing, I have the option, and again, I'll just wait a few seconds. So under the purchasing configuration, I could create my workflows, and it could get pretty detailed. So in this example here, we have if a vendor bill requisition comes through, the first step is whatever dimension, department dimension that transactions coded to, the department manager will get a notification so they could approve that transaction. But then after that, there's a second approval process, and that one is value based. So here we specify if something is 1,000 or over, then it's going to require 2 approvals. So not only did we get the department manager's approval, but now because it met a certain threshold, it could go to another person in the organization to do that second approval process. And it doesn't stop there. So under accounts payable, let's say you want to manage it further as far as when it comes to payments. Same thing in accounts payable. You could create payment approval settings. So you see here all the various levels. You could decide how many approvers you're going to require for a certain dollar amount and so forth. And then finally, within the cash account itself, so if I go to cash management, checking account, I'm going to click edit here. Under the check printing, if I like, I could upload signatures. I could have 1 signature or 2 signatures, and then I could put in the rule as to when I would require 2 signatures or when to print the signature on the check itself. So between the requisition approvals, the AP approvals, and the required signatures and so forth, you really could get pretty detailed and meet your requirements within the organization and your business processes. So I'm going to go ahead and switch back to my slides. Just give me a second. All right, so what does this mean to potential clients? So you can make timely and informed business decisions with up-to-the-minute financial and operational reporting, expedite their financial close and obtain a global view across multiple business entities, improve cash flow and increase operational efficiency by eliminating the manual processes and automating billing, revenue recognition, and renewals, and improve productivity simply by doing some of the things that we showed in the other slide, reducing your dependencies on spreadsheets and managing the complex revenue requirements through the system. And as Tom mentioned, we'll be taking questions at the end of the session, but one question I get often is, who owns my data? So with Intacct, they have buy with confidence. What that means is you own your data. So if you ever decide to leave Intacct, they'll help you get your data out of the system. And you can also preserve your data at Intacct, so you could log in at any time and see that data as long as you like for a nominal fee. Okay, so now I'm going to hand this over to Rick Sommer, our President and CEO. Rick?
And actually, Ferris, just one quick question was typed into the chat box. I just thought maybe we would take this one question before Rick dived into it. At a high level, how difficult is it to migrate to Intacct? And I would assume that would be probably from a QuickBooks type of setup.
Yes. So that process, we're pretty familiar with it. Intacct, they provide you all sorts of import templates, and they're very intuitive. Each column gives you a description exactly what you need to do, what are the requirements, and so forth. And essentially then, once those are populated, we just import them into Intacct, and that import process is pretty straightforward. So once you do the import, you'll get an email and feedback as far as if there are any errors, where they are, so you could focus on those and fixing them. And also, you know, Intacct Solutions, we've been doing this for a long time, and we have internal expertise that really do this. So they'll be able to walk you or your client through this process, and they're familiar as to what, you know, QuickBooks can do, or sometimes how files are exported out of QuickBooks. So hopefully that answers the question.
Okay, great. And as Ferris mentioned, we're going to turn the floor over to President of Intacct Solutions, Rick Sommer, to talk a little bit more detail about our QuickBooks Advisors program.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for spending your time with us on this webinar this morning. We appreciate your time investment with us. I'd like to echo Ferris's comments and emphasize that this is the excitement that not only myself, Ferris, and our entire team has with Intacct. We feel that it is an incredible solution. More and more clients are coming to us looking for cloud technology, and we did a complete search on the market before we agreed to bring Intacct on board as a product offering. And it was pretty clear from a variety of aspects that we believed Intacct was the right solution for our clients moving forward. So I think you saw from Ferris's presentation the flexibility of the product, the dashboards, the reporting capabilities are unparalleled compared to a lot of the ERP solutions that are in the market today. And I hope that you saw and have confidence in the product with the presentation that Ferris did, and have the same confidence level that we do that our clients will be well served with the product solution. With that, I'd like to also then talk about our referral program that we put together for QuickBooks Advisors. We understand that you're a trusted advisor for your clients, and you've been serving them for several years, and take pride in your relationship and the ability that you've had to help those businesses grow. And now that these businesses are potential QuickBooks graduates, you're looking for possible solutions to help them go to the next level of software. And we know that that relationship is important, and we want to reward that relationship. So what we put together is a referral program for QuickBooks Advisors, so that what we'll offer is a $1,000 referral for those clients of yours that you refer to us, so that we can work with them to make sure that the Intacct program is a good fit for them. I'd like to emphasize that we are not a group that just sells software licenses. We are a consulting group with a focus of long-term client relationships. So we are not a group that you've heard some stories about that will sell some licenses, close the deal, and then move on to the next client. Our evaluation process, our review process with the client requirements is a consultative approach. We want to make sure that we have a solution that's going to be a good long-term fit for them. And if for any reason we don't think that's the case, we will absolutely bring those concerns to the table and talk through them. Sometimes that might mean that the client is not a candidate for QuickBooks and they can go look for another solution. and sometimes that means that Intacct is a good fit for them, and then we can agree as a team to move forward together. So again, I hope you have confidence in Intellitech as you have confidence in Intacct as well. So some of the specifics, the referral needs to be a client that you're actively engaged with. You need to make the introduction to us and transfer that information over to us. We have a lead registration process with Intacct. Intacct does have a direct sales team. So if you refer your client to us, we will immediately register that lead with Intacct. And that's very important because if the client reaches out to Intacct directly, it's quite possible to get identified to the direct sales team. And in that case, we would not be able to offer the referral if that client goes with Intacct. But make the referral to us, we will register the lead with Intacct, and we'll work with you and your client through the evaluation process. And if it's a good fit, the client agrees to move forward upon the payment of the first installment of the Intacct software, we will pay you a $1,000 referral fee. We're looking forward to hopefully cutting many checks of this nature. We think it will be mutually beneficial for all of us. And again, we're very excited about Intacct. We're very committed to growing our Intacct practice. And if anybody has any questions, please let us know.
Yep. Thanks, Rick. And Ferris, I'm going to grab the screen back from you here momentarily. As Rick mentioned, it is important for a variety of reasons that these leads do get registered with Intellitech Solutions so we can properly take care of everything we need to take care of. So we will be sending this link out to everybody, but I at least wanted to take this opportunity on the call to show that we do have a page on our site to keep things simple and streamlined, to just give a feel for the information that we would need. Really, we just need to get your contact information, your company, who you are, so on and so forth. And really, to kick the ball off, we just need the name of your client and a first name from them, and as well as any additional notes. You know, we do want to respect the relationship that you have. We're trying to work through you, the trusted advisor, rather than reach out directly to this client. But as Rick mentioned, for a variety of reasons, we do need to at least get the client name before we can really kick off the ball with anything, just to make sure this is even something we can move forward with. You know, again, we can't say this strongly enough. We're trying to build a mutually beneficial relationship, so we want to work through you and not contact your client directly. So really, information-wise, this is about all we need right here. I will be sending this link out. You can feel free to use this form. You can feel free to give us a call. You can feel free to email us. Again, we're looking to build relationships here and make something that's mutually beneficial for all of us. And just to jump back to the final slide here, it is important, obviously, to register your leads with us. So again, once we can get that going, I think we can have everything underway. So at this time, if there are any additional questions, I do see one question in the chat box here. Again, feel free to type a question in, or you can use the hand raise feature. We can unmute your lines. We'll also unmute the lines for a general question and answer session. But the first question I see here, Ferris, is will this support browsers other than Internet Explorer?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's going to support Chrome, is going to support Firefox, and it's going to support Safari. So, and you know, with Chrome, they have a version number, but it's not like Internet Explorer where you have to download and install that. So it's not certified on Chrome, but it's definitely usable.
Okay, great. Any other questions? Feel free to type it in. I'm going to go ahead and take the lines off of mute now if anybody just wants to ask a question.
Or does he not want one?
Okay, well, if there aren't any additional questions, thank everybody for your time. We'll leave this open for another minute or so here. If anybody has any questions, type it in the box. But if not, all right. Well, thank everybody for your time. Thank you, everybody, for your time today. We will be sending a copy of these slides out to everybody, as well as the link information. Please feel free to reach out to us with any questions, and we look forward to building a mutually beneficial relationship with everybody. All right. Thanks a lot, everybody. Thanks, Ferris.
Thank you. Bye.